So today, we're starting something really special. It's a musical epic, a legend from the heart of the Gambia. This is the first of 4 parts, and it all begins with a boy who they say learned to sing from the river itself.
To really get this story, you have to go back with me. I mean, way back. Picture a time before radios were in every home, before you could just turn a dial and hear music from all over the country. This was the time when music was right there, in the moment. And yeah, long before there were big stages or concert halls in the cities, the story we're about to tell comes from a much older, more elemental place. It's a story that's literally rooted in the earth and the water. Our story is set right here, in a town called Georgetown, which we know today as Janjanbury. And this is where we meet our hero, a young boy named Lalo Kebba. This is where the legend is born.
All right, so, the legend. Where does a story like this even begin? Well, for Lalo, it all goes back to the very day he was born, an event that the village would still be talking about generations later.
See, his birth wasn't just any birth. As the story goes, on that warm, humid evening, the great River Gambia itself seemed to react to his arrival. It began to glow with this incredible golden light, almost like it was giving him a personal blessing. And it wasn't just the light. There was a sound, too. The elders, the people who had lived by that river their whole lives, they all swore they heard something new that night. Something that sounded like a whisper, coming right off the water. So what did this whisper sound like? Well, it wasn't just the sound of the current. They said it was music, chanting, with these strange, beautiful melodies that nobody recognized. It was as if the river itself was singing him into the world. So the boy who was born on this incredible night, he grew up, and yeah, he was different. On the outside, if you saw him, you just see this quiet kid. But inside, oh man, inside there was this absolute storm of music brewing. That whisper from the river had planted something powerful in him. You know, while all the other kids were running around, chasing goats, doing normal kid stuff, Lalo was somewhere else. You'd always find him down by the riverbank, and his favorite game was just listening.
First, he listened to the river, not just hearing it, but really listening to the rhythm of the current, the music in the ripples.
Then, he listened to the wind as it rustled through the palm trees. That dry, rattling sound became like a percussion instrument in his head. And of course, he was listening to his own people. The sound of distant drumming from village ceremonies would drift across the water, and he soaked up every single one of those rhythms. So you see, for Lalo, the world wasn't just noise, it was all music. Every single sound found a place inside him, becoming a note in this incredible song that only he could hear. But a storm of music like that, it can't stay bottled up inside forever, right? It's gotta break free. And when it finally did, it was a moment the village would never, ever forget. So let's just trace how he got here. It all starts with that mythical birth, the river glowing gold. Then he spends his childhood just absorbing the sounds of the world around him. And then, at just 5 years old, he finally starts to create. And he didn't have any fancy professional instruments, not at all. He used whatever he could find. He picked up a dried gourd, a calabash, and started tapping out rhythms. He even took some old fishing line and strung it on a piece of wood to make his own little lute. And then he sang. And this is the part of the story that just gives you goosebumps, because the voice that came out of this little 5-year-old boy, it was just impossible. It had a richness, a depth, a kind of wisdom that felt ancient. It was not the voice of a child. And people's reactions, it was immediate. Everything just stopped. Women washing clothes by the river, the fishermen out in their boats, they all paused what they were doing, completely captivated by this sound. Even the local religious leader, the imam, heard it and took notice. And when the imam, this respected figure in the community, heard Lalo's voice, he understood right away. This wasn't just a talented kid. This was something more. He whispered, Allah has given this boy something unusual, a true, undeniable gift. So you have to be wondering, right? where did this incredible, ancient-sounding voice come from? Well, according to the legend, the answer was obvious to everyone in the village. It all came back to the river. That whisper they heard the night he was born, that was it. The people believed that the River Gambia, the very lifeblood of their land, had literally given Lalo its own voice. He was singing with the spirit of the river. And a voice that powerful, a voice born from a river, well, it was never going to stay hidden in one small village. This was only the beginning of his story, and soon the entire world was going to hear it. So that's where we'll leave it for now. And it really makes you think, doesn't it? How does a simple sound become a song? And then how does that song become a legend that people tell for generations? We'll start to answer that in part 2.
So who was this boy really? And what was it about his voice that could just stop everyone in their tracks, from little kids to the most respected elders in the land?
So, Section 1, a prince and his voice. As Lalo was growing up, his talent became this magnetic force that you just couldn't ignore. This is all about his rise as a young griot, a storyteller, a historian, and how he went from being a gifted kid to a local legend.
And get this, by the time he was only 13 years old, he wasn't just practicing in his room. He was already a seasoned performer. We're talking naming ceremonies, weddings, you name it, he was the main event. At an age where most of us are just trying to figure things out, Lalo had already found his stage. You know, it wasn't just his voice, it was his whole presence. The source material tells us that children would literally follow him around like he was a griot prince. He just had this incredible natural charisma, a kind of pull that made him a leader before he was even a man.
And the things he sang about, wow, this wasn't kid stuff. At 13, Lalo was singing about the soul of his entire generation. He sang about love, about struggle, about migration. He sang about the river and the ancestors. He had this wisdom that just seemed way beyond his years.
And I love this metaphor. Think about it. A calabash doesn't just hold water, right? It holds it perfectly, securely, without losing a single drop. It contains its full weight. Well, that's what Lalo's voice did with emotion. It was this perfect vessel for the deepest feelings a person could have. Okay, Section 2. A voice travels like fire. Because a talent like that, it's not going to stay in one place for long. Word about this kid with the unbelievable voice started to spread, moving from village to village, kind of like a wildfire. So it starts locally, right? His name, his voice. Everyone around his home in Georgetown knew who he was. But that was only the beginning. Soon enough, the next major town over, Basse, started calling for him. The demand just kept growing. People didn't want to just hear about him anymore. They had to hear him for themselves.
And after Basse, it was Contour. You can almost feel the momentum building here, can't you? His reputation was racing ahead of him, creating this wave of excitement all across the land.
And this is the moment you know it's real. When word finally reaches the capital city, Banjul, and the most respected elders, the keepers of tradition, are talking about him, you know something truly special is happening. They're the ones who called him that boy with the voice like roasted honey. Part 3. The Call of Sacred Songs. You see, talent can get you pretty far, but sometimes destiny needs a little push from a guide. And for Lalo, that push came from a fateful encounter that would put him on the path to becoming a true master. So the story goes, one day a traveling master griot, a man by the name of Kimo Kuyate, was passing through, and he heard Lalo sing. And Kimo didn't just hear a pretty voice. No, he recognized a rare, almost sacred potential. So Kuyate pulls him aside and says these words, that he must learn the sacred songs, the ones meant only for those chosen by music. I mean, wow, that's not just advice, that's a calling, an invitation to a whole other level of art. And that was the moment Lalo's life was about to change forever. And Lalo listened. He accepted the challenge and just dove in, dedicating himself to becoming a student of the ancient Mandinka rhythms, the musical heritage that had been passed down for centuries. And let me tell you, this was some serious training. He had to learn the ancient instruments, the kora, which is a kind of harp lute, the balafon, a beautiful wooden xylophone, the powerful djembe drum, and on top of all that,
He had to master the sacred praise songs, these incredible stories and melody that were centuries old.
So what was the result? He didn't just learn them, he absolutely mastered them. Every single one. His raw, natural talent, now forged with disciplined training and a deep connection to his heritage, it made him the complete artist.
And that brings us to our final section, bridging old and new. See, mastering the past wasn't the end of his journey. It was just the beginning of his real purpose. Because what truly made Lalo a genius was how he took all that history and used it to create something entirely new.
It's like Lalo was living in two worlds at once. On one hand, you had his total mastery of the ancient praise songs, the traditions of his ancestors. But on the other hand, he had this incredible gift for innovation, for creating new melodies that nobody had ever heard before. He wasn't just repeating the past, he was building on it.
So, what was his true calling? In the end, Lalo was more than just a musician. He was a living, breathing bridge. He was the connection between the past and the future, using the wisdom of the old world to create a soundtrack for the new one.
And that really leaves us with a powerful question to think about, doesn't it? Lalo's story shows us that tradition doesn't have to be a cage, it can be a launching pad. It really makes you wonder, in our own lives, how can we honor where we come from to help create where we're going?
It's really hard to wrap your head around just how big he was. I mean, this wasn't just some rising star. This was an artist who had become part of the country's actual identity. And he was barely out of his teens. His voice was, well, it was the sound of an entire generation. So, to really get this story, we have to start at the absolute peak of his fame. Because to understand the fall, you first have to see the incredible, dizzying height he reached.
His music was totally inescapable, but in the best way possible, you know? From the moment you woke up, his voice was just there, like a constant companion on the national airwaves.
And it wasn't just on the radio. No way. It was the soundtrack of the streets themselves. If you walk through any city, like Serekunda, you'd hear his music just pouring out of car windows, out of shops, out of homes. He was the pulse of the city.
And his reach was just incredible. From the capital city all the way out to the smallest villages, his music brought everyone together. It was the sound of celebration, of just everyday life. He really, truly was the voice of the people.
But you know, that kind of universal love, it comes with an immense amount of pressure. The same spotlight that made him shine so brightly also threatened to completely burn him out.
And this is where the story really takes a turn. Fame really is a coin with two sides. For every single bit of adoration he received, there was an equal, opposite demand being placed on him. And that coin, it was about to flip.
The pressure wasn't just one thing. It was everything, all at once. You had politicians who wanted his influence, producers and businessmen who just saw dollar signs. Even the griots, the traditional keepers of the culture, were demanding his time. Everyone wanted a piece of him, and he was being pulled in a million different directions, sometimes by people who were just plain jealous.
So what does that look like in real life? Well, it looks like a grueling, completely unsustainable schedule. Think about it. His nights were for performing, his days were for traveling all over the country, which left him with mere minutes for himself. The person Lalo Kebba was slowly being erased by the icon.
And of course, something had to give. The pressure started to take a physical toll. And the first thing to show the cracks was his most incredible gift. The one thing that defined him. That once effortless, beautiful sound was becoming a struggle.
You see, the same passion that fueled his rise to the top was now just consuming him. He was burning out. And it was right then, at his most vulnerable moment, that he put his trust in exactly the wrong people.
Okay, so this is where the story shifts from burnout to outright betrayal. His downfall wasn't just a slow fade, it was a targeted exploitation that just pushed him right over the edge.
And here's exactly how the trap was set. First, you get the dazzling promise, everything an artist could ever dream of. Then came the contracts, hidden in all this legal language that basically signed his freedom away. And finally, the devastating betrayal. The money, the fame, it all just vanished, leaving him with nothing but broken promises and a tarnished reputation.
When you strip everything else away, this is what it came down to. His gift, his art, his very voice was just being treated like a commodity, something to be squeezed for every last drop of profit, with absolutely no regard for the human being behind it.
So now we come to it, the inevitable end result of all that pressure, all the exhaustion, and all the betrayal. This is the moment everything came crashing down.
You can just picture the scene, can't you? Another night, another show. He's running on fumes, with the weight of everything on his shoulders. He gets up on that stage, like he always does, to give his all.
And then, the unthinkable happened. The one instrument that had never, ever failed him. The voice that was as reliable as the sunrise, it just gave out. Right in the middle of a song. Just silence where there should have been a perfect note. And this was so much more than just a voice cracking. It was his entire identity shattering. The boy of the river, this incredible natural talent, had been pushed beyond his limits. The magic was just gone. In that moment of silence on stage, you could feel an entire country just gasp. The voice that had been their constant companion, their soundtrack, was suddenly gone, and the silence was absolutely deafening.
And just like that, he was gone. He didn't just fade away, he vanished. He retreated from the stage, from the spotlight, from the public life that had both made him and completely broken him.
So Lalo's story leaves us with this really powerful question. It's a tragic tale of an individual talent, for sure, but it's also a cautionary tale, isn't it? It's about the real price of fame, the responsibilities we have to our artists, and the deafening silence that's left behind when a culture loses one of its greatest voices.
This is the legend of Lalo Kebba, a celebrated musician who hit a wall, a devastating crisis, and found his way back in a way nobody expected. Okay, let's get into it. So it all kicks off with a mystery. For months, one of the Gambia's most beloved voices, Lalo Kebba, just vanished. I mean, no performances, no new recordings, nothing, just silence. And in that silence, this one question started to echo through the whole community. Where did Lalo Kebba go? And, of course, the rumors started flying. The most common one was that he'd gotten sick and had to travel to neighboring Senegal for medical treatment. It made sense, right? It was a logical story, and it came from a place of real concern for an artist they loved. Then there was another story going around, that he had just retreated to Casamance, a region known for being super peaceful and tranquil. Maybe the fame, the pressure, maybe it all just became too much. You could tell people were just trying to make sense of this huge void he left behind.
But here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. The truth? It wasn't about a hospital, and it wasn't about a simple retreat. The real story was much, much stranger and way more profound.
A voice that had practically defined a generation of Gambian music had just vanished, gone, and it left an entire community grasping for answers. And the answer, as it turns out, wasn't in some big city or clinic. Nope, it was found by going all the way back to his roots. So instead of looking for help from the outside world, Lalo Kebba went back to the very source of his talent. He returned to the river, the exact place where, as a little kid, he first learned how to listen and how to sing. And for weeks, this was his life, a completely solitary quest. He wasn't practicing scales or doing vocal exercises. He was praying, he was meditating, and he was just listening to the sounds of the water. It was like a spiritual pilgrimage to find his soul again. And this journey, this retreat into solitude and silence, it was all building toward this incredible climax. This wasn't just about a musician coming back. This was about the rebirth of a legend. Then, it happened. As the sun was setting over the river, after all those weeks of total silence, a sound started to emerge. He began to sing again. And it wasn't some big, triumphant return to form. No, it started as just a whisper, kind of tentative, like he was exploring a voice he didn't even recognize anymore. But as he reconnected with that source, with the river, the voice started to grow. It began to find its confidence again, its volume swelling, almost like the current itself. And soon, the strength came back. That incredible power that had once captivated entire audiences was flowing right back into him. But it wasn't just strong. This is the crucial part. It was wiser. The voice that came back was not the same one that had left. It carried the weight, the wisdom of his entire journey. You could literally hear the change. His voice was deeper now, more soulful. You could hear the journey in it, the scars of everything he lost, but also this incredible, unbreakable strength he had found by reclaiming it. So when he finally stepped back on a stage, the impact was just, wow. It wasn't just applause, it was this huge collective emotional release. Mothers were weeping, elders were weeping, even the children were crying. And in the ultimate sign of respect, the griots, the traditional keepers of stories and music, they bowed their heads. You see, Lalo Kebba didn't just get his voice back. He found a brand new purpose for it. His music was totally transformed. It became a genuine force for healing. With this second chance he was given, he dedicated himself completely to his people. He started teaching young musicians, he worked to protect the ancient griot traditions, and he began sharing Gambian rhythms all over the world. He used his platform to support families in need and to lift up his entire community. His journey really did come full circle. He was exactly what the legend says. The boy who learned to sing from the river, lost his voice to the demands of the world, and then reclaimed it through the very spirit of the Gambia. His journey completely transformed his art. It wasn't just for entertainment anymore. It's this powerful reminder that sometimes to find our true strength, we have to go back to our roots and not be afraid to be vulnerable. His voice, forged in all that silence and solitude, now carried the power to heal. And all of this leaves us with a question to think about for ourselves. Lalo Kebba found his voice by going back to a river. It really makes you wonder, in your own life, what is the source of your voice? And what would it take for you to reclaim it if it ever got lost?
Kende kolbe dunia kilo galangana kan abela langana kan dunia arsembo tale banko kongo ngana jamala alkiya mamma sa ni monin soje